For those of you that have been doing family research, you're very familiar with the whole thing of civil parishes. The civil parish is the entity, it's the official entity. Modern parishes are, if you like, they're a later Catholic phenomena. They're more so a GA phenomena now, where you have the hurling teams and that, because again, Catholic parishes are beginning to unite. But the civil parish basically is the footprint of the old medieval parish. So where we are at the moment, we're in O Madden country. We're in the barony of Longford, Shiel Anamaku, or Shiel Anchia, or whatever way you want to pronounce it, the territory of the O Maddens. But we're actually in the civil parish of Lickmolassy. Lickmolassy, Lickmolassy, and that's from the Irish, Lickmolasha, the stone of St. Molasha, and the stone is a hill outside Portumna here, where you had the old medieval church, up on a rock outcrop. So that gives the name to the parish. The next parish that we'll be entering in, and when we cross the river or the boundary, will actually be Kilmallonog. Kilmallonog and Lickmolassy have been united to form the modern parish of Portumna, what we know as Portumna today. So it's complicated for people, but it's very simple once you know it. But just to make it, to de-simplify it, or actually to make it very unsimplified, you will find that in the making of new parishes, there was often a townland stolen from one of the old civil parishes and given to another, just to build it up, to be able to support the priest. And that's what it was all about, was to make the place sustainable, to be able to support a parish priest and his curate or curates. Lickmolassy, we have no clear evidence of an O Madden castle or tower house in Lickmolassy, but there had to be. That's goes without saying. They're here prior to the. Now, we may not have a castle, but they're certainly here in this hinterland. You'll find them in all of the various surveys and that. You'll find Maddens in all quarters. And tomorrow, when I take you through the Dominican Priory here in Portumna, I'll be showing you some of the mural plaques or the wall plaques in the abbey, and you'll see a lot of the O Maddens there, and you'll actually see the townlands that they came from, in a few cases named on that. But we don't really have an O Madden castle. Some people suggest that the old Black Castle of Portumna, which no longer exists, was an O Madden castle. I don't accept that. The Anglo-Normans were in here in the mid-13th century. They were the first stone castle builders. The Black Castle is Anglo-Norman. So the Normans held this town or this area here as their own territorial unit, with their various other Anglo-Norman families and that paid service to them. But as we move out, as we move into the neighbouring parish here, Kilmallonog, well, I suppose, again, we don't have a tower house, but we have several ring forts in that. And if you think about the ring forts, now we're going in here, this is Boolia. This is Boolia now. Yeah. And actually, that building you see behind you, which we've turned from, that's Boolia Church. That's there since, well, there has been a Dominican presence in Boolia since the latter 18th century. The Dominicans founded their monastery. It's not a monastery, it's actually, I suppose it is a monastery, but it's a religious house is the best way of putting it. They founded a religious house in Portumna on the ruins of what was a Cistercian chapel. The Cistercian chapel belonged to the Anglo-Normans, but the O Maddens in 1414 were granted papal rights to establish a Dominican house in Portumna. And by the latter end of the 18th century, some of the Dominicans had migrated out into town. It was post, I suppose, it was well post Reformation, but it was post the penal era time and that, when the Dominican house of Portumna was now a Protestant church, and the Dominicans moved out here and eventually set up a chapel here in Boolia, and that's the chapel that we see today. It's a slightly different model to the religious house that we'll talk about tomorrow. You know, it doesn't have all of the conventional buildings and that sort of stuff. I'm not quite sure if we're not in Clear Nasra as such, but we'll be shortly in Clear Nasra. But where we're heading to here is Derryhiney Castle. And what's going to take place here is we're going to transfer people. We don't think we'll get this bus in the gate through the field. But Kieran has kindly agreed that he'll ferry people, he'll shuttle them in on the other bus. We have one long field with a lot of horses in it. And we're not happy, well, mostly we're not happy about horses. We're delighted to get into Derryhiney, but, you know, if we can avoid walking where there's horses, that's good. But also if we can avoid wasting time walking. That's good as well. You know, the quicker we get in, the quicker we see it. But Derryhiney Castle was the last datable tower house built in Ireland. So historically, it's hugely significant for scholars, people like ourselves, archaeologists and art historians, and that Derryhiney is always cited as the one that you look at as an example of a late tower house. It was built in 1643, and if we're lucky, if your eyes are fairly sharp, we should see the DOM very fetched. I built, or built by me, or I had built in Latin, 1643, but his DOM is Daniel O Madden. So Daniel O Madden built the last tower house in Ireland that we can actually see a fixed date on, and that's 1643. Well beyond, and when you think about that and put it into the context of where we're going tomorrow, we'll be going to Portumna Castle, the Burgo Castle. That was built around, I think, 1618 or 1620. A big mansion, an elaborate mansion of the European, the Renaissance style, and yet the Gaelic Irish out the road are building vertical towers.
It's my cousin's house, isn't it?
O Madden house.
All right, okay.
I don't know the
Yeah,
house.
I know.
My cousin is a Madden.
Well, this place is heavily populated by Maddens, even the one that has turned to become a Kelly in the recent past, by Deep Paul. Well, actually, I think the Maddens themselves suggested that. Tell us that. But that's not. Well, I would imagine in a place like this, if you did DNA, you'd be quite surprised with how closely related people are here. The reason you might do it here is you're ready to turn out to be a Kelly.
Now, ask you a question. Where did the Maddens come from originally? The back.
It is, you have to go around the loop. Oh yeah. There's a gate just up around. The O Maddens are one of the tribal units. Back in the 5th century, a Gaelic leader called Máine Mór, or Máine Mór as they pronounce it. Máine Mór made his way down. Some people say from Clogher, but whether it was Clogher, but he certainly made his way down from the northern counties, down south into Roscommon, down into Connacht and into East Galway, and to push the native tribes out. The Firbolg are the tribe that are here. They're the native tribe.
Yeah?
And the Firbolgs are pushed out by Máine and his people. As a matter of fact, we're told of in the tribes and customs of Hymany, Máine is the territory, the wider territory that all of this is in. But we're told in that one of the leaders of the Firbolg, of the native tribes, invited the O'Kellys or the Máine to a feast. And the idea was that they were going to slaughter them. And St. Grellan of Ballinasloe, who obviously was linked back to the new tribal overlords, he put a curse on Cian. My youngest son is called Cian. He put a curse on Cian and his people, and they were swallowed up in the bogs. It's typical what you get with St. Grellan was so powerful in that. So these guys had committed a terrible offence where they were actually going to break you're inviting people to a feast, but it was subterfuge that was planned, not so much a feast. But anyway, and in a way, that's also, I suppose, a sort of a legend. It's a whole legend associated with the taking of the Firbolg lands here in East Galway. The same when Joe Mannion spoke to you last night. His people, the Sogan, the tribal unit of the Sogan, they were pushed back as well. And they would have had several different tribes. But eventually they took over. The likes of the Nevins and that, we believe, not fully sure, but the Nevin tribes and that, they would have been part of the Firbolg. And they had been pushed back up around Tina McNavian and places like that. So, you know, you get these tribal units, but out of your own people, out of the Máine, out of this Máine Mór came the O'Kellys, the O Maddens, they're the major ones, the O'Hordens. I'm running out of steam now at this stage, but there were Kennys, Tracys. The Tracys were deeply involved in the church around here. You have the O'Lurcan or the Larkins. The Larkins were deeply involved in the church. They all had their own function, but the O'Hordens are very important because the O'Hordens are the ones we believe inaugurated the chieftain for the O Maddens, and that took place in the neighbouring parish, or the second parish. We have Tirnastra and then Fahy, but